Hail Samurai! Welcome to No Holds Barred, my sort of thoughts videos at the end of our journeys. And blimey, what a journey this one's been. 6 months, give or take a week or so. We have been working our way through the world, the realm of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild on Master Mode to full completion as denoted by the little 100% in the map in the corner there. You can't really see it. Honest, it's there. It does exist. Trust me on this one. Well, actually, if you just go back through the VODs and check the final episode of this Let's Play, then you will see that 100% there. That is, and it's a long list I've recited a few times, every main story mission done, every side story mission done, every shrine mission done, all 120 shrines done, all 900 Korok seeds collected. That was a fun one. The Trial of the Sword, also a fun one. All done and dusted. We have done all of the Champions Ballad DLC. We have unlocking the final boss fight of that, as well as the reward. No spoilers. I try to keep these videos as spoiler-free as possible. What else have we done? But for no obvious reason, I went through and bought every armor set in the game, upgraded every armor set to max 4-star level. Then we beat Ganon, obviously, and oh yes, the Hyrule Compendium, which is take a picture of pretty much everything in the game, which we have also done. If there is something we can do, we have done it. We have done a lot of things. Trial of the Sword, for an instance, was 3 levels of gauntlet challenges, which got, yeah, rather annoying, but hey ho, I'm annoyed about it for various reasons, lore-based as well as gameplay-based, but I'll cover a bit more on that later, and I'll spare you the lore rants. You'll probably find it in the VODs of this 300-part Let's Play anyway. So, there's a lot to unpack here. First question off the bat. Would I recommend anyone do a completion run of this game? No. I would not recommend anyone try and complete this game. Is it completable? Yes. Will you lose your sanity in the process even, and progress? Yes. If you were insistent on doing this, do it to a custom 100% scale. Do every sub-story, do every shrine, unlock every heart container, unlock every stamina vessel, which you'll do by unlocking every shrine anyway. Upgrade whatever armors you want to upgrade. Don't worry about anything else because most of them are just superfluous by the end of the game. Don't worry about unlocking the entirety of the map. There is a lot on the map that you need to find and do and stuff, and it's just a pain in the neck. Just, yeah, do every mission, do everything you can, and only get about 250 Korok seeds. That's as many as you need in order to unlock every item inventory space in the game. Get the Master Sword, do the Trial of the Sword if you're feeling up to it. There are plenty of weapons in the game, you don't need the Master Sword, but if you're a massive Zelda fan like me, then I'm guessing you would want the Master Sword and you'd want her at full power. I can highly recommend this because the Master Sword, once we got her, is pretty much our mainstay weapon. The only issue I have is after you unlock its full power, it still has the degradability. So eventually the Master Sword gets tired and needs a 10-minute sleep, so you'll still have to use the other weapons in the game, but the champion's weapons are reforgeable, so they can be your stopgap weapons if needs be. Graphics-wise, beautiful game. Absolutely stunning. The locations of the scenery is beautiful. Nintendo have really knocked out of the park with the graphics. It's really pushed the Switch, well, I would say to its limits, but I think it's pushed it a bit beyond the limits. Beautiful game, beautiful world, but you will see performance drops. It sort of makes me worried about Breath of the Wild 2, to be honest. Korok Forest, I always call it Kokori Forest, because it is Kokori Forest, but that's a lore thing. Korok Forest, you will notice a massive slowdown in FPS. You'll also notice it in Faron Woods, and anywhere where there's a lot of trees. I think the rendering of the leaves and the foliage really pushes the Switch's hardware. Even docked, as it is now, you still get a lot of FPS drop. I've not noticed anything other, no tearing or anything. The rest of the game runs stable. We have had a few instances where the game's crashed on loading, but that's when I've been trying to skip cutscenes, and somewhere in the game logic it doesn't like it. But otherwise, fairly stable game. The Blood Moon system they have in place for clearing out the garbage data and freeing up memory space is an absolute brilliant idea. It keeps the game running very smooth, so we should be all good and dusted there. Sound-wise, good sound design, beautiful soundtrack, that brilliant, amazing soundtrack when it's playing. The thing about Breath of the Wild is there are wide open spaces and you've got a lot of ambiotic music and you've got a lot of just hitting chords throughout here and there, and I suppose if you stitch them together you get a pretty brilliant track, but the music seems to be few and far between. It doesn't always irk me, but you do realise once you get to a location where there is a soundtrack, you suddenly realise how good the soundtrack is, and you think to yourself, man, why can't this be in anywhere else in the game? And I mean, I think it's going to be a personal preference sort of thing. Personally, I prefer the Zelda games of old where you had a brilliant soundtrack for everywhere you went and it was amazing. You did have quiet moments, but it was good to have just that music in the background. It's a game. I don't want to listen to the sounds of nature. I can go into the garden and do that, but it's either there or there. The words. My brain is slightly broken. It's been a long journey, this. Like I said, 6 months, and the final brilliant cherry on the top is, if you want to get the 100%, you have to find every map location. Game doesn't tell you this, by the way. It's just one of these things that it randomly throws at you when you get the percentage counter after you've beat the main game, where you're mopping up everything, and all of a sudden it goes, oh yes, by the way, you didn't find this random bridge in this random corner of Hyrule to log it into your map. So sorry, but you're not getting your 100%. Thanks, Nintendo. Much appreciated. Gameplay, love the gameplay. I love, as much as... the weapon system is a sort of dual-edged sword for me. On one hand, I love the range of weapons available. I love the way that you can play around with them to solve puzzles and just to take out different enemies. In Master Mode in particular, I love the fact that it forced me to figure out, if you go around trying to take out every enemy, you burn through all of your good weapons and you're left with the wooden boko ones, which are pretty useless, to be honest. I love the fact that you're able to actually go off and you can strategize, and in the early days of this game, I basically just ran away from everything. No point fighting all of the bokoblins, they were all overpowered, and moblins and above were just forget about it. But as I progressed, as I unlocked better and stronger weapons, as I got some shrines done and worked out farming strategies, all of a sudden we started to climb up, before it was pretty much leveled out at normal Zelda difficulty. Some of the gold enemies in general are super tough. You can take them out in one shot with with an ancient arrow if you so wish, but you don't get the fancy stuff they drop, because the gold enemies will drop rare items like star fragments and rare ores. So Nintendo did a great job on the sort of balancing act between risk and reward. You could risk losing a good weapon fighting a golden enemy with a ludicrous amount of HP, or beat them and get the shiny, or you could just say sod it and shoot them with an ancient arrow and they go foosh and that's it. Golden Lynels. They are rather entertaining to contend with, but I mean, by the end of it, the difficulty means that you're forced to learn how to use the parry. My recommendation, definitely learn the parry. Get practicing with the parry against the Guardians early on. Trust me, it's a godsend later on in the game, especially in the Trial of the Sword. And learn how to do the focus dodges, because they work really well against the Lynels. Never figured out with the Lynels with the big Lynel Smasher Club things, but with the swords, makes it so much easier to take those guys down. And then you get star fragments, which you need to upgrade all of the stuff, but like I said, don't go completion mode. Trust me, it is very much not worth it. Not worth it for the 900 Korok seeds. Can't say it's probably worth it for upgrading every armor gear. Very much worth it for doing all of the side quests and the sub-stories. Definitely worth it for doing all of the shrines. Definitely worth it for all of the DLC as well. The Champion's Ballad is such a beautiful DLC. I absolutely love it. Even if we were curb stomping the final bosses by the end of it. But in fairness, that's probably because I was so overpowered that I could curb stomp most things. Certainly did with Ganon, but that's all in the VODs. Check it out if you have time. Is there anything else I've missed? Sound design, gameplay, brand, story. Story is you save the princess. It's a Zelda game. You wake up, Link wakes up after 100 years. Zelda is trapped in the castle, sealing away the great calamity, and you must go and awaken the 4 divine beasts in order to, you don't have to. That's the beauty of Breath of the Wild. You could literally go from the starting area straight into Hyrule Castle and fight the final boss. If you're up for it, go for it. But otherwise, yes, if you want to play the full story, you go off and you save all the divine beasts, and then you go and fight Ganon, you save the princess, you save the day, you are the great hero Huzzah, woo, go us, Link has saved the day, and the end. So yeah, story, the main story is a bit lackluster, but it's the story beats in between. There's sort of two stories going on. You've got the story pre-game, which was 100 years ago, and the story now, which is learning everything and exploring the world post the Great Calamity. I kind of like how it also interchanges. Is it the best Zelda story? No. I think Twilight Princess still, for me, holds as the best Zelda story, but your mileage may vary. For me, Breath of the Wild is certainly a good story. Brilliant story. I wish there was more lore. The world feels, as vast as it is, very empty. You find derelict settlements all over the place, and that's fine. You expect that after 100 years of monsters attacking relentlessly, but I was hoping for lore. You find an outpost ruins, or you find a great citadel. All you get is one NPC who goes, oh yes, there was a citadel here, some soldiers fought in it, and that was it. No, give me some diaries to read, journal entries, give me logs. Some bits are fleshed out. Hyrule Castle has a couple of nice bits and pieces that you can find, but for the rest of the map, I know the scale of the game was vast for Nintendo. It's a big game. It's a complicated game. But you would have thought they could have thrown a bit more lore into it. Hopefully with Breath of the Wild 2, they can get it done. Maybe we'll get some history, we'll get some fleshing out the world. As the world recovers, we might get more info and more bits and pieces and more lore. And for now, we'll see. We will see. And with that, I think that is everything. If you have any questions you want to throw at me about Breath of the Wild, feel free to throw them in the comments down below. Feel free to stop by the Twitch channel and ask me live. I will be more than happy to go into some of the bits of the lore. I'd be more than happy to go on answer, well, any questions that you may have. But with that, I think it's time we wrap this Thoughts video up. So, to each and every one of you, may you all have a beautiful evening, morning, or afternoon, wherever it is around this whole wide world you are. And as always, until our paths next cross again, the Vortex awaits, and I'll see you all next time.